Hey guys, welcome back to another movie review. Previously, I did a review of Like Father, Like Son, which was one of the worst body swapping movies of the late 80s that I've been focusing on lately. And prior to that, I did a review of 18 Again, which I thought was okay. But today I want to talk about the body swapping movie that I actually liked. And I wouldn't say that it was as good as Big, but I would say that it was better than 18 Again and Like Father, Like Son, and that's Vice Versa, which came out in 1988. That was the second of the body swap movies that came out after Like Father, Like Son. It was directed by Brian Gilbert, and it was from a screenplay by Dick Clement and Ian LaFrennais, and it was based on a novel that had been adapted, that had been written, I should say, by F. Anstey back in 1882 in the UK. And this was a novel that had been adapted previously 3 times for the screen, but Vice Versa, the American version, was the first version that had been done in like 40 years. So, you had some good actors in this. You had Judge Reinhold, Fred Savage, Jane Kaczmarek, Richard Kind, William Prince, Ojir Nadu, who would later go on to be in Office Space. And I think what I want to do in this review is I want to talk about why Vice Versa, this version of Vice Versa, why this movie was better than 18 Again and Like Father, Like Son. I'm not going to review Dream and a Little Dream because I can't stand Dream and a Little Dream. I really just can't. I don't like that movie. I just find it offensive, mean-spirited, badly acted, poorly plotted, nonsensical, incomprehensible. I just will not review Dream, Little Dream. So, I think there are a lot of reasons why Vice Versa it was better than 18 Again and Like Father, Like Son, and why it was the best of the body-swapping movies, excluding Big, which was really more of an age swap. First off, I do think the fact that it was a novel helped. I think it grounded it in something. It gave it a foundation. I mean, it wasn't a strict adaptation of the novel, but at least they had something to work off of. You know, they were able to modernize it for the 80s audience. And that was good. I mean, they had something to work off. It wasn't just left to the flight of fancy of screenwriters, producers, directors, as was the case of the other films. But I also think that the location of Chicago was key. That was different. 18 Again and Like Father, Like Son took place in Los Angeles, and I think even Dream a Little Dream did, if I can recall correctly. But you know, Chicago is a really photogenic city. John Hughes used it really well in his films, and it was a distinct, different location. It stood out from the others, so that was key. I think the fact that Judge Reinhold and Fred Savage had good chemistry on screen together helped. You could tell that there was real moments of genuine affection between them. There was good chemistry, good humor between them, and that it all showed up on the screen. You could just tell. And I think also the fact that you had an 11-year-old involved in the plot, that allowed for more comedic possibilities after the body swap. I mean, after the body swap, when you have Judge Reinhold starting to act like an immature kid, it's because he is an immature kid. He's an 11-year-old kid. That's different from 18 Again and Like Father, Like Son, both of which dealt with in the case, older kids, a 17-year-old, 18-year-old. Kirk Cameron's character was 17 years old in Like Father, Like Son, and Charlie Schlatter's character was 18 years old in 18 Again. And to me, those ages are more, they require a little more maturity, I think a little more nuance, a little more sophistication in the approach. You can't just have goofy, stupid comedy the way that Dudley Moore was doing in Like Father, Like Son. He did a lot of things that I felt were very out of character for a 17-year-old, particularly a 17-year-old who was applying to like Ivy League schools and trying to go pre-med, as Kirk Cameron's character was trying to do in that film. So, you know, you had an 11-year-old, so you could play around with that. You can have some fun with that. And when Judge Reinhold is acting kid-like, it makes more sense. It's more believable because it's an 11-year-old kid. So I think the fact that there was a wider age gap between the two characters really helped. It was certainly a wider age gap than what Dudley Moore and Kirk Cameron had in Like Father, Like Son. And I also think that like Vice Versa had a good plot device for its body swap. You know, it had a mystical, magical skull from Tibet. You know, it had an aura about it. And that also allowed for an interesting subplot where the two crooks were trying to get the skull, so that also allowed Judge Reinhold and Fred Savage to have a bit of an adventure. Um, 18 again had a very poor plot device for its body swap. It was the car accident. And my issue with this is you have to be consistent with the rules that you establish, and you have to be consistent with the universe that you set up. You can't have a car accident lead to a one-way swap where essentially George Burns is in a coma and George Burns' soul is transferred into Charlie Schlater's body, and then on the return side of that have an accident in the hospital that leads to both characters being back in their proper bodies and George Burns waking up from the coma. Like, it was inconsistent. They didn't have a good plot device. And I just think that either if you're going to use a car accident as your plot device for the body swap, have them both swap. George Burns in Charlie Schlater's body, Charlie Schlater in George Burns' body, and no coma. So, like, commit to the idea of both swapping, or commit to the idea of only one of them swapping. George Burns goes into Charlie Schlater's body, and George Burns' body is gone. And essentially Charlie Schlater's soul is gone. So you just have Charlie Schlater's character now living with the soul of an 81-year-old man in him. And you just commit to one or the other idea. Don't try to have it all. You know? That was a major misstep, I think, in the story construction of 18 again. And it also meant that George Burns couldn't be around for the majority of that film. Like Father Like Son had an okay plot device for its body swap. It had a magic potion, but the problem there was that they messed up some of the details later, like leaving the magic potion out on the floor so that the housekeeper can pick it up and put it back in the cupboard so that Dudley Moore could put it in his drink, and then not having anybody try to take another swig of the magic potion so that after they change places, to try to change places back again right away. In Vice Versa, they did try that. Like, the skull, they're both holding on to the skull, they change places, and then at a later point in the movie, they do try to switch back, although they're not holding it properly, as we later find out. Only Fred Savage was. I mean, the characters don't realize that at the time, but at least they made an effort to show that the characters were going to try to rectify the problem immediately. You know, it just... So, Vice Versa had at least a decent plot device for the body swap. And I also think that the supporting characters were more interesting and given more dimension, and they were given more comedic moments. Richard Kind, Jane Kasmerick, Jane Lynch, who had a small role as an assistant to Judge Reinhold's boss in the movie. Some of these smaller supporting characters still had nice little comedic moments, some of which didn't have anything to do with the body swap. Like, there's a funny moment where Richard Kind is arguing with a couple of coworkers about the correct way to pronounce the plural of the word moose. Is it moose or meese? Like, that's funny. It doesn't have anything to do with the body swap, but it was just nice to see that the writers were giving some nice moments of comedy to other characters in the story. There's a great moment when Fred Savage, who is now channeling Judge Reinhold's character, pulls up in a limo. He gets out of the limo, and he's now more edgy. You know, he's got the uptight, serious adult Judge Reinhold in him, and he tells the limo driver, wait. You know, and he goes inside, and there's a Salvation Army Santa Claus standing on the sidewalk, and he asks the limo driver. He says, well, who is that kid? Is he famous? And the limo driver says, he will be. I'm going to kill him. You know, just little things like that. The fact that they even gave a nice moment of comedy to a bit player in the movie, the limo driver, just shows you that they were attentive to the details, and they cared enough about fleshing out all these characters and giving them all nice little moments and not focusing everything entirely on Judge Reinhold and Fred Savage and the body swap and focusing all the sight gags and one-liners all on that. So, you know, that was really nice to see. I just think it also had nice moments of warmth and affection between the two characters and some of the other ones as well, like even Corinne Bohrer as Judge Reinhold's girlfriend. There was just some nice moments that she had with both of the characters. 18 again, it had a little bit of warmth to it, I guess. But like Father Like Son certainly didn't. It didn't have any likable characters. It didn't really have any real moments of warmth. I mean, they tried to put in something at the end. They tried to give it some heart, but it just felt very false and contrived. So I think it was really all those reasons why Vice Versa wound up being the winner of the body swap sweepstakes of the late 1980s, excluding Big, of course. Big was the real winner. Big really was the one that surpassed all of them. But I just thought Vice Versa was a really entertaining entry into the genre. Surpassed 18 again, surpassed Like Father, Like Son, and Dream a Little Dream. Good chemistry between Reinhold and Savage. I liked the characters. They had a good plot device for the body swap. They had nice moments of warmth and affection between the two of them and the other characters. There was good comedic moments from some of the other supporting characters, actors like Richard Kind, Jane Kaczmarek, Jane Lynch, William Prince, Algier Nadeau. There was just, the whole thing just was executed much better than the other movies. They had a good location, Chicago, and the whole thing just worked better. So that's my review of 18 of, well, no, that's not my review of 18 again. That is my review of Vice Versa. And that will conclude my review of all the body swap movies. I'm not going to review Big because it doesn't really count as a body swap movie. And I'm not going to review Dream a Little Dream because I really don't want to. And that's it. So thanks for watching and take care. Bye-bye.